I've never played a full game of golf. I would be so lost out there, which is fine. You got to learn somehow, right? But boy, oh boy, not my forte to be slapping around some golf balls out on the green. It'd be fun. It'd be one hell of an experience, you know. I'll be the beer cart. Don't they? Don't I think Svetlana, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be on the beer cart. Yeah, let's go fishing. Let's go fishing. Let's go to the Miami Boat Show, February 11th to the 15th. If anyone's been keeping track. Yeah, let's play disc golf. I could play a little frolf, frisbee golf. We could do that. Now we're talking. Rufus King, speaking my language. A TB 5K? You guys want to run a 5K? I mean, not for nothing, but I'll give you a run for your money. No pun intended. Over on a 5K. I think that would be the arena in which we excel and dominate and crush. Oh, that would be fun. But, I mean, hey, maybe I'll get out on the, what do they call them? Out on the links, out on the back nine. Maybe I'll be like, wow, this is the most fun thing I've ever done. I got to do more of this. Maybe I'll turn into a golf, guy, in my old age, right? The V15s just released C-Link. I had a pair on my feet just yesterday, believe it or not. Duck pin bowling? All right, let's get back to these NQ futures. We're having fun because the market's closed today. But let's get back to the NQ. Let's at least do something slightly productive. We know that this trendline break now starts to put into play these lows. What we need to do is just beef up these downside levels. So let's go to the hourly chart and let's make sure we can kind of see this with some clarity and make sure we know our heads from our elbows, from our knees and toes. So this is still the accurate level. I like that. This is kind of in here as well. There's honestly a helper level, which is kind of the overnight high Sunday level. I'm just going to do this and bump that out to the end of the month. It's very thin, and I don't want to over-index on that level. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do a couple of things with it. I'm going to bump it up even more. I'm going to go to about, let's go 500 to about 485. That should be pretty good there, I think. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Maybe even a little thinner. Let's go 90. So it's only about 10 points wide. That's more like it. I just don't want to over-index on the level. If the level is very thin, then I'll just be a reminder to self to not get too hung up on it. All right, neckline of the inverted head and shoulders, accurate. Low here, low here. I like that. Shoulders, accurate. Let's get the head in there on the pattern. Of course, the very low of this debacle way back over here. Let's just throw this thing on there, and then we'll read out some levels for you, making sure that we're all prepped for Tuesday's open, should there be a larger onslaught of sell side into these lows. So the head of the pattern, just to throw this on the screen, is 24,950. 24,950. Right, that is your level to beat on the downside relative to this last major low. Your shoulder marks in here are 25.2. That's an easy one. 25,200. This in here this is unchanged. This is Wednesday's low. This is 420. We all remember that one. That one was easy. And then the top side is unchanged. I still like having some of the minutia that's in here, like this level, as well as this level, right, as well as the top of the range. I like having all that stuff just as some reference points as we're grinding around. It just gives me a sense of whether or not we're trading in the upper third, the direct midpoint, the lower third, right? If we were to see a recovery effort back over 420. Sorry, I dropped the zero there on that move. 420, okay? So that's all set. You'll also notice as I turn the extended hours back on that the Sunday night open here is basically right at this little zone where we need to kind of see whether or not buyers or sellers will retake the low of Wednesday. That's Wednesday's low right there. Remember, Wednesday's low was a big overshoot from this range, right? And then you could widen the range out again, and you could say, well, like, no, this is really kind of the range right here. That's fine. But in my view, the short-term overhead supply comes from the lack of hold around this area in here, which we know is the 640, 650. 640/50. Right? That kind of deal right there. So that's it. That's the NQ futures. I think there's a lot of overhead supply. We're breaking the soggy pennant back to the downside. We're losing the trend line off the lows here. There's no longer a higher low. So the more time you spend underneath 500 to about 420, the more time underneath this into the coming week's worth of trade, the more problematic, the more I would look for downside. And then ultimately, do we stage some kind of more major low down here becomes the next question. Is there some kind of firming up at an equal low, right, at the next level, which would certainly still be a lower low from this perspective. So trends are changing. That's the main point of today's exercise, right? The weekend Saturday update video was of the belief that trends may continue in the upward direction, and I'm still not seeing a huge amount of supporting evidence roll over out there, but it's enough so that it's neutral, where I would not want to come in on Tuesday without sort of correcting the mental bias of like, oh my God, I'm just in like buy the dip mode and buy the dip and like this is a long and it's a long and we're in this bullish consolidation. Like that's not the case, right? We're coming into Tuesday's session with quite a dramatic change based on this sort of tariff 2.0 situation on the EU with the rollover here breaking the daily trend. Okay, that's the main illustration, NQ. Let's go over to the Qs, and let's see what we have here. This is a daily chart to start. There's your flat top highs. You are breaking the trendline support, doing something like this, right? We are failing that based on what we just saw. Right? If we just go back over here, look at where we're at relative to this previous pivot low. We're basically right on it from what was the second, right? After New Year's Day, the second right here was that session. So we're opening here, which is a failure on the NASDAQ, unfortunately, through the bear engulfer highs of 1010. Oops, that's not 11, that's 10. Where's my undo? There's undo, there's white crayon. Here's 1010, and then here's 1120. Right? Those two levels right there are kind of critical. Right? So the fact that we're giving that up, we're breaking this wedge to the downside, we could start thinking about this, and we have our downside levels.